in today's episode, we are going to the third largest atoll in the world. That's right, we're visiting Takabonerate here in South Sulawesi. So let's get the adventure started. Let's go. What's up you guys and welcome back to the channel. My name is Kristian Hansen. I've had a fantastic stay here in Selayar and now it's time to continue the journey to the next place here in South Sulawesi, because this morning I'm going on a boat for 5-6 hours to the third largest atoll in the world called Takabonerate. So now I'm gonna hop up, get some sarapan, and then it's time to get on the boat and explore this incredible area of various small islands. And for this trip guys to Takabonerate, I am joined by wonderful Selayar, and they're actually here to pick me up now, so let's say good morning. Selamat pagi guys.
Selamat pagi Chris, halo.
Siap untuk adventure?
Yes,
kita?
we are so ready. Good morning.
Good morning. Siapa namanya bro?
Ya, my name is Andi Syahrir. Namanya Andi Syahrir dari Wonderful Selayar.
Siap. Nice to meet you bro. Dan, salam kenal bro.
Ya, Safar.
Safar?
Ya, I watch your YouTube.
Terima kasih bro. Bagus. Alright guys, it's time to hit the roads and thank you so much, Faji.
Thank you, sir.
It's been a pleasure. Mr. Donny,
Mr. Hansen.
thank you so
Thank you
much.
very
Yeah.
much.
I appreciate
Thank you
it.
for coming. Yeah. Me too. It was a pleasure.
We will have to come back for the next season so we can visit Dennis' place on the East Coast as well, yeah?
Yes, of course. Okay.
Alright guys, see you, yeah?
See you.
Bye. Are you excited about visiting Takabonerate?
Not at all.
Oh, okay.
Super excited. What are you talking about?
Me too. Oh my god.
We then had a quick 20-minute ride to Benteng Port, from where we would take our boat for the day. And it was supposedly 4 hours faster than taking the ferry. Or so we thought.
Alright guys, we've made it to the ports, and the reason we're going with Safar and Andy today from Wonderful Selayar is because we are actually doing a small collab with Takabonerate National Park to go there, because it can be extremely expensive to go to Takabonerate. Normally if you want to hire a boat for yourself, it will cost you 15 million rupiah. So the Takabonerate National Park have offered to support us with the boat, so we can hopefully get there in 4 or 5 hours, because if you want to take the ferry, it can take minimum 8 hours to go there. So now we're actually waiting for someone from the national park to come here and say, okay, we can leave with the boat. Hopefully, depending on the weather, we will have a trip 4, 5, 6 hours at the most. And that one right there, the red one, that is our boat for today. Siap, Safar?
Siap.
Aus. You. Big ship, yeah?
What you want to hit?
Alright. And we are off here at 8:30ish. It's a little bit more people on this boat than we were originally told. When we did this collab with the National Park of Takabonerate, they said, yeah, you will have the boat all to yourself. But yeah, this is always how it is when you go on a trip. Things change and you have to adapt. But we're also just told that the trip could possibly take up to 7 hours. So it's actually more or less the same as taking the ferry. So, but yeah, that's how it is.
And so, our long journey on the water began. The boat was luckily quite spacious, so we had room to lay down and rest. And I had excellent company. Besides that, there wasn't much to document on the boat, so we spent quite a lot of time napping to the rocking of the boat.
Alright guys, we have finally made it after how many hours? We started at 9. A little bit more than expected, 7 hours. We have arrived at our first island called Jinato, and the water is crystal clear and blue. So Now we want to get up, get some lunch, find our homestay, and yeah, then explore the island a bit. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Good.
Ready,
You.
when Christmas is like
Alright. Ya, makasih Pak. Ya, hati-hati. Hati-hati di jalan. Ya. And step. Yo. Easy. I think this island is a lot smaller than I originally thought. As long as they have a homestay so we can get some sleep tonight, that would be great.
We then had a bit of wait time as the bags were unloaded from the boat. A small three-wheeler then came to pick up passengers and bags. But as it quickly filled up, we decided to walk.
So the island we're on right now, called Jinato, it's not exactly a famous tourism spot yet. This is typically the first stop you'll go to when coming to Takabonerate, and then from here you can go out to the different small islands. And I actually just realized that this is probably the most remote island I've ever visited. There's no cars here, and yeah, therefore definitely no traffic.
No traffic.
Yeah. And we've walked for about 200 meters, and this is where the tarmac stops. So from here on, all sand.
We then had a 700-meter walk to the village, with nothing but sand and palm trees in sight. We then made it to the village, and there we had to stop by the post office to pay our visitor fee of 150,000 rupiah per day. We then continued towards our homestay, and as we hadn't had any lunch yet, we luckily met two young entrepreneurs who were selling Indonesian meatballs in chili sauce for just 10,000 rupiah per bag. We then made it to Ibu's small homestay, where we would be paying 150,000 per night, including meals. And here we had a big living room and 2 bedrooms on top of Ibu's private home.
Hey, what are you bringing?
love.
Hey.
Labor of love.
You found papaya?
Yes, ripe
And some jumbo.
jambu papaya. Yes,
Fantastic.
I'm happy.
Good.
And after a much needed lunch break at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it was time to rest a bit before we started the last exploration of the day.
So guys, we had a quick late lunch and now we're back into the kampungs again because we are heading for sunset at a beach called Linda. Yeah, it's been a long day. I think we'll watch the sunset and then that's gonna be it here for our first day. Definitely need some rest after that long ride coming in. But it's quite fun to bring Victoria on this trip as well because it's the first time for her coming into small villages like this, especially on such a small island. And you know, I've been traveling for such a long time, so there's so many things now that I'm just used to seeing. So that's why it's sometimes fun for me to bring a tourist who kind of reminds me like, oh, look at this and look at this and look at this. So it's not often I bring guests on my trips, but it's an absolute pleasure bringing this one. Oh, yeah.
For our sunset tour, the only taxi on the island was luckily available. So we jumped in the three-wheeler and set out for a bumpy ride.
We are very lucky today because we have the sun setting on our right side and we have full moon on our left side. Incredibly beautiful.
It had been a long day, and as we had to catch the boat back in just a few days, our program would surely be packed. But on that beach, with that sunset, I knew that this was gonna be a great trip. We ended our day with dinner at the homestay. And with no chickens on the island, I decided to give the fish a go. Victoria said that fish tasted great, but apparently I'm still not a fan. Luckily I had rice, vegetables, and excellent company.
Selamat pagi guys. It was our first morning here in Jinato and have slept decent here in the little homestay. We're so tired after the boat ride yesterday, so we fell asleep pretty early. And it is now around 6 o'clock and we are gonna have a bit of breakfast, some coffee, and then at 9 o'clock we are going on our first dive here in Jinato at something called Paradise Wall. Then it is back here, get some lunch, and then it's actually off to the next island. So let's get the day started. Alright guys, it is dive time here in Jinato. And we're on our way to the boat now. We actually just said goodbye to all the kids, but wherever we go, they follow. look.
On our way we met a papa who was sitting on a small stool in the middle of the street. I was surprised to see that he was making a massive fishing net by hand, something I assumed people now just bought from big factories. Because the majority of the people here on this island are fishermen. But since there isn't any electricity, they can't store the fish cold, so they use the sun to dry them, which they will both eat and sell to customers on mainland. Wherever we went, there was always some wait time, even though sometimes I wasn't even sure what we waited for. But with excellent weather and good company, we found ways to entertain each other, and most importantly, we found a way to make the kids laugh a bit.
So we move like this. In, out, in, out. Yes.
So the boat we're going on today is called PuloNesia. It's actually our friend Akbar's boat. So if you guys come here and want to do some diving, just need to contact Akbar and you can go with PuloNesia. Alright, let's go! Tada guys! Tada!
We had heard from many that Takabonerate is an incredible place to dive. So we of course had to try it out for ourselves. And looking at the view we had, it seemed like a pretty good place to go diving. However, it wouldn't be a real island adventure if we didn't have a few issues to overcome. For example, I normally use XL in wetsuit, but I had to squeeze into a medium, as that was what we had. Luckily Victoria is a very skilled diver, so she helped to double check that the rest of the gear was in order. Unfortunately, my 44 size feet couldn't fit into the 41 size boots, so we had to do a bit of improvising. And it was then time to explore Taka Bonerate from below the surface. The visibility wasn't as great as we had hoped for. The water was a bit murky, but there were plenty of fish in the big aquarium. I was a bit worried, as many locals still go fishing with homemade bombs from glass bottles, which kills the coral and many of the fish there. A general problem still in these areas. But we eventually saw a lot that I didn't get to capture as well. And besides that, a couple of tuna fish and a giant puffer fish swam right by my face. I quickly run out of air when I go diving, but luckily Victoria was kind enough to allow me to jump on and borrow some of hers. It was a lot of fun having a girl with me on this trip, and it's also good fun to have someone to tease.
You should put on your mask back because I'm... That is how you treat a woman. Alright guys, and we are back from the dive. We did have a few minor technicality problems under the water today, but luckily we had Victoria with us, who is an excellent diver, who was able to help us out. So Victoria, can I get your comment on today's dive, please, in short form?
In short form, there's a lot of things that went wrong today in today's dive. However, I think that we made the best out of it. And highlights for today, we saw a lot of dogtooth tunas and they were hunting. So seeing their hunting behaviors, and then we saw Chris first time seeing a spotted eagle ray. We saw a blue spotted ribbon tail ray. We saw
a lot actually.
We saw a lot today, and it's beautiful. Like Taka Bonerate is amazing. The biodiversity here is incredible.
We saw a lot.
Yes, and I can't tell and stress enough how amazing this place is, and people have to come and check it out.
Was that the short version?
No, it's the right version. But make sure you get your certification as a diver.
Yes. So all in all, we did have some fun dives, and are we ready for the next island adventure?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Before leaving, we had a few packs of rice cooked in banana leaves, and Victoria spent a bit of time doing yoga with the kids. Because like she said, I bet they haven't tried that before.
Hello my friends, you my friend. Are you guys ready to go to Tinabo?
Yes!
Let's go! Hello guys. Hello channel, welcome to my guys.
We then had a bit of wait time again, as we waited for the captain to show up. But with a lot of excitement about going to the next island, we entertained ourselves for a bit. We then said goodbye to Jinato and continued our journey towards the island of Tinabo. The boat was rocking quite a lot, so I went to the top of the boat, and there I noticed a small creature who might have regretted sneaking onto the boat. Meanwhile, the other guys were recharging their batteries before the next leg of our adventure began. And roughly 2 hours later, we had arrived at the tiny island of Tinabo as the first and only guests that week. Because there are no people living on Tinabo Island besides the 7 rangers that takes care of it. And even though it was late, we then had to spend a couple of hours rechecking and planning our program for the next couple of days before heading to bed.
Selamat pagi guys. It is our first morning here at Tinabo Island. We arrived very late last night, so we just took our things, got something to eat, and then it was straight here to our small villa bungalow on the beach for some rest. And this morning we're up early because we have a long day ahead of us. We have so many things we want to explore before we already have to go back tomorrow. And a little bonus information about our small villa here. There is no fresh water to shower in because the only way they get fresh water here is when it's raining, and it hasn't rained for 2 months. So we have to shower every night in salt water, but luckily we brought enough water to just put a little bit of fresh water on our body so we're not super sticky when we have to go to bed. So if you come here, don't forget to bring a lot of water. Yeah, it's a little bit primitive, but it's enough. It's enough for an island adventure. So while Victoria and I have been staying in the villa, the guys, they have been camping in this very spot. Selamat pagi. Assalamualaikum. Are you ready for today?
We luckily had a great and positive team, and everyone was getting along very well. So before starting the day's activities, we went up to get some serapan. If you come here, I recommend you bring a lot of food. The coconuts here are delicious, but besides that, there are only rice and fish on the menu, and that's 3 times per day. So we had brought our own vegetables and eggs.
Alright guys, we've now had our sarapan, and now it is time for the first activity of the day. We're heading to the beach to see, wait for it,
Tinabo is a very famous island for one particular thing, and this is why we had come here. Because every day on this island, when the tide is high, the beach is swarming with hundreds of baby black-tip sharks. The locals' best explanation to this phenomenon is that the sharks have been breeding for hundreds of years around this island. And due to the few people visiting this place, the baby sharks feels comfortable coming all the way up to the beach. So we of course had to try and swim with them as well. It isn't dangerous at all. They are, however, quite curious, so you can get really close to them if you stay still. However, you shouldn't swim with them if you have any wounds on your feet, because that could potentially lead the sharks to bite you. But if you don't, then it's perfectly safe. And luckily, the full-grown mama sharks, they don't come this close to the beach.
Alright guys, so we had around an hour here with the baby sharks, and it was a really interesting experience. Victoria, what do you think? You had a good time?
Really fabulous to see all of the behavior of the baby sharks, and they co-hunt with the snappers today.
We had a really good time, and as we have a long program today, it is time to continue. So we're going to the boat now, and then we're gonna go for our first dive here near Tinabo Island.
We then sailed towards the neighboring island called Tarupa, where they have a dive spot called Coral Garden. We again had a couple of issues with the gear, but luckily I had Victoria to check everything was alright, and as the guys were doing the best they could, I helped in my own way, trying to keep the spirit high. Our dive at Coral Garden was a drift dive, meaning there's a bit of current, so you can simply relax and flow with it. Unfortunately, there wasn't much to see there. A lot of small fish, but poor visibility and not a lot of life. So we did a few exercises and fooled around for a bit instead. But as the weather was perfect and we still had much to explore, we kept the spirit high. And we then set course for Tarupa Island. By far, the most remote island any of us had ever visited. Everything here is built in wood, on top of the white sand. The majority of the population here are Muslims, and as it was a Friday, we had arrived just as all the people, dressed in their finest, were heading for the Friday prayer. This island might look small, yet 1,216 people live here. They even have a junior high school, they have electricity, and the majority of the people here are surely enough fishermen. But a thing I hadn't thought about was how do they get fresh drinking water on an island like this?
And as always in the villages, we always have a lot of followers joining us. So the locals here is telling me that on this island they don't have any fresh water to take a shower with because there hasn't been any rain for 2 months, so they haven't been able to collect the rainwater. They have a small well here, but they say that even the water they take from the well is still pretty salty. So that is the reality of life on the island. Oh iya, makasih mister. Gimana bro? Lapar? Hah? Panas.
The National Park Office had invited us in for lunch. And here we got to try the water that they bring up from their well. And it was surprisingly clean. However, still a bit salty, especially if you have to drink it every day. But it was a good reminder how lucky we are to always have access to clean water. And we then gave our feedback to the national park on how we think the tourism here could be better.
That was our stop here at Pulau Tarupa. We've had a great stay. Now it's time to head back to Tinabo, and then that's almost it for our Taka Bonerate adventure. Let's get back to the boat.
Halo Pak, dadah.
We unfortunately didn't have much time as the boat was heading back. But it was very interesting to see with our own eyes how an island life looks like and how happy these kids are being able to swim in this clear Sulawesi blue water every day. All in all, it had been a great trip and indeed another adventure. So we spent the last night on the beach, cooking some popcorn and enjoying the last island sunset.
This trip to Taka Bonerate has been incredible. We've met so many good people, seen so many beautiful places. And if you're watching this video and considering to go to Taka Bonerate, I will say maybe wait a bit, because Taka Bonerate is not fully ready for tourism yet. We had a lot of small problems that needed fixing all the time. We had to do a lot of planning during the trip, even though everything was supposedly planned. And in terms of the diving, they don't have full equipment there yet. For example, they didn't have the right wetsuit sizes for us. They didn't have a safety kit on board. They didn't have oxygen, so if someone had decompression sickness, it would have been a real problem. And the biggest issue is that there are not any regular schedule yet, boat schedule or flight schedule to Taka Bonerate. So you have to pay 10 to 15 million if you want to rent a boat to go there. And that's just too expensive considering the quality you get there. And if you want to go to Taka Bonerate, I would highly recommend going with a booking agency like Wonderful Selayar or PuloNesia that has experience there, because if you go on your own, it's gonna be tough. So I highly recommend a trip to Taka Bonerate, but I will also tell you that it's not fully ready yet. It has great potential, But unless the government starts supporting with a regular boat schedule or flights there, then it's not going to be able to live up to its potential. So yeah guys, that's going to be it for this video. It's now time for me to head back to mainland and explore the rest of South Sulawesi. I really hope you enjoyed watching this video. Stay tuned, more is coming, and I will see you guys in the next one. Until next time, tada guys.